Hey everyone, Rarity Dash here, time for another blind reaction. Though not just any blind reaction, this is a little bit special. This is in fact my first Patreon-sponsored blind reaction. Yeah, if you don't know, I started a Patreon recently. It was part of one of the things I announced in that update video that I did a couple weeks back, along with my Discord server and my plans to eventually start streaming and just a few other things that were in there as well. But yeah, one of the things was a Patreon, and one of the reward levels for the Patreon is for $20 you can pick any video you want and I'll react to it. There are some limitations, like it can't be over an hour and just other stuff like that, but generally speaking, anything goes, even stuff that I wouldn't normally react to. Which kind of brings me to this video today. This is going to be, it's definitely something very different from anything I've reacted to, but yeah, it's Excalibur, Fate Stay Night, Man-at-Arms Reforged. And this is on a channel called AWE Me. And apparently they are going to forge the Excalibur from Fate Stay Night and actually make it in real life, which is kind of cool. And this was this video was requested by Crimson Melody, and yeah, I'm pretty intrigued. To tell the truth, this channel was actually on my radar, as crazy as that sounds. I mean, this is something completely different. They're actually making real weapons. Not something remotely similar to anything I've ever reacted to. But people have actually suggested content from this channel before, and I was looking at eventually doing a video from them. Though not this one. The one I was looking at was from something from a certain web series that has a bit higher profile on my channel. You probably have a pretty good idea. But instead I'll be looking at yeah, another video entirely. One based on one of my favorite things. And something that hasn't had much of a profile on my channel, which is Fate. In fact, this week just happened to be the first time I ever watched anything Fate on the channel, with me starting Fate Apocrypha reactions. But I am a huge Fate fan. It's one of my favorite franchises just ever, and I'm actually excited to see them realize Excalibur in real life. If you haven't seen it, Excalibur is a sword, and it looks like this, and it's pretty cool. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward sword, but it's got a cool look to it. It's appealing, and I don't know if they're going to make the scabbard too, Avalon, but if they do, that would be awesome. And Saber's cool. Look at this Figma of her. It's, yeah, nice. I have a lot of these. Yeah, but that's kind of beside the point. Just blatantly showing off. And yeah, you can go over there now. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I have never watched anything even remotely like this. I don't know anything about blacksmithing, but I'm interested to see the process and just to see how they do this, how close it looks to the actual Excalibur, and really just what this thing is. So let's go ahead and get this started. That should do it. Yeah? Lots of people suggesting it. That's cool. Good. Oh, wow. Good to know there are lots of Fate fans out there. Just look at that animation. If you haven't seen anything Fate, you should. Excalibur. Fate Zero and Unlimited Bladeworks. And a few other series beyond that, I think. But those are the important ones.
I'm Carrie. We are the Stagmer Brothers, a Baltimore knife and sword.
Cool.
We're going to be building some of your favorite weapons.
Oh, wow.
And some weapons
wow, those look cool.
Before.
This is Man-at-Arms Reforged.
Nice.
To make Saber's Excalibur from Fate Stay Night, as well as the rest of the Fate series, I chose to make my own steel. Aroshigani is produced by taking low carbon steel or iron, melting it, letting the molten metal pass down the charcoal, picking up carbon and lending as a high carbon bloom at the bottom. I chose to use old material, medieval and pre-medieval, as well
Makes
as some
sense.
of my own stuff. I also broke down the material by the classes that represent the rest of the 6 noble spirits. Here, I have medieval arrowheads. Arrowheads were used by archers in warfare. I have a Viking-style axe. This represents Berserker. Berserkers amongst the Vikings were the class of warriors that would actually use hallucinogenic mushrooms to induce a rage on the battlefield. To represent Castor,
Throwing in that history.
I have Scythian bronze arrowheads that look very much like dragon's teeth. In Fate Stay Night, Castor is Medea. If someone remembers the story of Jason and the Argonauts, Medea is the witch daughter of a king who gives Jason
And good job with
a
those
task
Fate Stay Night
to
spoilers, by the
plant
way.
dragon's teeth in the field from which warriors will grow. I have these carpentry and farrier's nails from medieval Germany. Here, I have a bit of a horseshoe. These are going to represent the rider's chariot. To represent Lancer, I have these medieval spearheads. These are not very good condition for a museum, but they're
don't really look
perfect
it.
for what I'm using them. To represent Assassin, who wields an Odachi, a giant katana, I have these katana tips.
As Ilya feeds the different objects and materials into the furnace.
Wait, is his
he's
name
gotta
Ilya?
watch his
That's kind of
temperatures. He's
ironic.
going to have to pay attention to make sure that everything comes out as one solid lump to be forged together.
So we removed the top flue, a lot of the excess charcoal that was in there. We don't really have a nice bloom sitting on top of the charcoal like you pray for, but it's stuck to the bottom. It's no big deal. We just got to slowly remove it and be careful and make sure we don't throw any good steel little bits away as we take the charcoal out. And we're just going to take our time and get it out.
While the bloom is still at welding temperature, we take it to the hydraulic press to consolidate it. This will make it much easier to fold and work with later on in the process.
Our
Yeah?
Our Excalibur guard back from Lauren.
Oh.
She went ahead and fabbed this up out of 3 pieces of wax. Did a really good job. It's
Oh.
right on the money. It's the size we want.
I don't think
All I'm gonna
wax
do
is
save
very
her just a little
authentic,
time
but-
by using the sander, just going around the perimeters and true the surfaces up. Then I'll hand it off to her and she can get it sprued up and detailed.
Definitely looks
ready
like the
for
right
casting.
shape. I mean,
I've just finished
I got this model in front of me,
detailing the
so-
guard for Excalibur, but the guard has these lines now engraved in it, which will be filled with enamel. So my next step is going to be to sprue it, then get it ready for investment and cast it with the rest of the pieces.
So for the Excalibur guard, we're going to be adding these Scythian arrowheads. These are bronze arrowheads, so I'm just going to take them and dump them right onto our existing bronze, and then I'll mix them in the crucible before I do the pour. So we had quite a few problems getting this guard poured. I resorted to trying to do a gravity casting. We didn't have the proper sand to put behind it to reinforce it, so we had a lot of metal come out the bottom. What we did is we just heated up a large batch of additional metal, and when we poured it back into the flask, which was still about 500 degrees, it hit the cold metal, froze in place, and gave us our entire piece. It's got a few issues we have to deal with. We'll TIG it up, clean it up, and it'll be perfect.
oh, that was just the mold, of
Now
course.
that the bloom has cooled off, it's time to spark test it. The spark allows me to see approximately how much carbon is in each piece, and I can average it out in my head and approximate where in the sword this piece will go. Let's spark test. High carbon, low carbon. I will have a pretty good sized chunk of this to make some part of Excalibur sword, probably the edge. I've got the forge running again, so I'm going to try to execute this in the Western tradition. For that to happen, I need to place the bloom back into the forge.
Lots of fire.
At a slightly lower temperature, but very close to melting again. And after that, we're going to start consolidating it by hand as needed.
Before he goes back into the heat, he's going to add some flux as we go. Flux is an oxygen barrier, allows a better weld for all those little pockets and divots and stuff that are inside that bloom.
The pommel, I need to hollow out the bottom so that the wood handle of the sword can go into it. And now all we have to do is cast it and then wait for the blade to be finished.
With the flask at 1,000 degrees, Lauren pulls the flask, sets it in the casting machine. I bring in the molten bronze and pour it. Once it cools down to about 900, we'll take it into the water and reveal the pieces.
After stacking his different pieces of bloom, Ilya is now ready to draw it out into a bar, hot cut it,
Just makes me
fold it,
smile.
and continue that process.
Being an avid fan of the Fate series, I chose to use
Oh,
medieval materials
good to know he's actually a fan.
to make my own
I mean, that makes
steel.
sense with him doing all the stuff from
Steel
for the different classes.
Now I stacked and I'm heating up the steel that's going to be
That's
the
really
edge
not
of the
necessary, unless you are a fan.
What I'm going to do, I'm going to use an Anglo-Saxon construction.
And he did
of a
talk like he knew the
multi-bar
series, so I shouldn't be surprised.
I'm going to take the edge, twist it on one half in one direction, and on the other half in the other direction. Because the myth of King Arthur originates in pre-medieval British Isles, I'm choosing that construction, a pre-medieval Anglo-Saxon construction. My
Cool.
twisted bar is going to be the edge of the sword. What I have to do is bend this bar right over, wire wrap the pieces, and start forging them together.
Now, this is pretty crazy.
At this point, I'm back at the charcoal forge where it all began. This is beveling. I'm setting the edge of the sword. Since I'm working with bloom steel, I cannot go too fast as I normally would. Going too fast would just shear and scatter the edge, leaving me with the ruined project and about half a month worth of work wasted. The worst thing that can happen in the heat treating is if a sword this wide will saber. And this is not a joke. At this width, standard forms of fixture tempering cannot get rid of the curve, and I will have to anneal the sword, straighten it, and then reheat treat it again. The blade
This guy
has
definitely
not
knows what he's doing.
sabered, which is fantastic news. And as soon as the sword is tempered, polished, and sharpened, the sword of promised victory is ready to wield.
Cool. Can't wait to see it.
I finished saw piercing our church windows, and we're going to now solder them to a sheet of copper and form them and put them together to make a sleeve where the knife blade will go in between.
Cool.
And then we're going to enamel in the open spaces.
Pretty good.
Here we are at the final stages of assembling Excalibur.
I keep comparing to my little tiny
the
sword.
ball, the guard, the blade ornament, which will work like a habaki, and of course the blade. All I have to do is fine-tune the pieces, make the leather-wrapped handle, apply the blue highlights, and we're ready to cut.
This is Ilya's real passion build this season. He's been spending all of his time thinking about this, working through it, and he even drove down into the Carolinas to get some ore and some material from Mark Green.
The sword of promised victory and the embodiment of Arthur's virtue has now been summoned.
Oh, wow! That's amazing. Oh, God. Clever, but I think actually not entirely accurate. It's a different sword that was in the stone. And that's really sharp, as would be expected. It's cool that we get to see them use it. Wow. Nice. Definitely having fun here. I like it. I like this guy.
Click here to
He's cool.
subscribe or click here to watch more episodes. Thanks for watching Man-at-Arms Reforged. We need to know what you want the guys to build, so tell us in the comments below what weapons you want to see next.
Yeah, I'm sure there are lots of interesting weapons they could do. That, yeah, that was cool. That was really cool. They got it down pretty good. Yeah, and just the process was really interesting. I kind of feel like they glossed over a lot of stuff there towards the end. I mean, getting it all shiny and nice. I mean, maybe that's not as interesting, but it seemed like there was a pretty big jump from what they had to what they ended up with. But I don't know. But still, just a fascinating video and a really cool video, and just what some people are capable of. It's great. I would definitely watch more of these. I think I will do that Ruby one eventually. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe there are some other ones that would be worth looking at. This was great. Thank you for your suggestion, Crimson Melody. This was a good pick. And yeah, thank you, of course, for also backing me on Patreon. And yeah, don't really know if I have much more to say than that. It's just cool to see something like this made real, and to see them actually swinging it around, having fun with it, and just, I don't know. It's a cool thing. It's something very different. And yeah, it's nice. And I definitely appreciated it. So yeah. Hope you liked the reaction. Let me know if you did, and see you in the next one.